Back on ABC24 this week, talking about the election, of course. What else? And to tell you, I wanted to spend the second segment talking about voter turnout. I want to show you some video from the last day of early voting in Shelby County. This past Thursday, it rained like cats and dogs in the morning. Voters didn't care. They got out their umbrellas, huddled under the awning there, doing whatever they can to protect, but they weren't about to go back to their cars. And later in the day, it cleared up some. This is Christ the King Church, I believe, on White Station. And thankfully, that church was built with quite a long walkway there, all covered. And they needed every inch of it too, because as you see, on and on it went as people showed up, some in costume, to cast their votes rather than having to deal with it on election day. So, Otis, we've been talking about this since the start of early voting and how turnout's been down anywhere, depending on the day, anywhere between 30% and 38%. And Shelby County uniquely, the second worst county when it comes to voter turnout in Tennessee. And so we've been hypothesizing, but why is that? What's going on there? But it's good to see some making up some ground there on the last day.
Well, they did. And according to the figures I saw from the last figures from the Election Commission, we are about 68,000 down from where we were in 2020. But that's not a total negative, because remember, Election day voting in 2020 was only 54,000 people. A lot of people in 2020, because of COVID, they decided they wanted to vote early, take the precautions, do the distancing, get it out of the way so they wouldn't have to be standing around there on election day. 54,000 was the lowest we've had for any presidential election in a long time, or actually, I don't remember. I'm expecting that election day on Tuesday to get close to 100,000. If it does, we'll be right back where we were in 20. And so I'm not bothered by the 68,000 fewer early voters.
Plus, you have double, maybe more than that, the number of precincts. As everyone goes to their precinct on election day, people may find they don't have very much of a wait at all on election day.
That's right.
Yeah, sure.
Which is another reason to wait, which is what I've decided to do.
Really?
I'm going on election. You voted early for what, 30 years?
I've been voting early since 1994 when they started.
What do you make of the numbers and why they're down so far this year compared to last year?
I think Otis makes a good point about the fact that we were in the middle of COVID, and we have a aging population of voters, and so they probably were very concerned about COVID and proximity to people. But I hope everybody will get out. And I'm going to tell you why. Whoever wins this presidential race and any of the other races, you want them to do it with a mandate.
Right.
Not with, although the popular vote doesn't count, it still sends a message that the people of America are with you. So I know we're not considered a battle state, but we are in this battle together, and I think we should show that. Now, I remember the glory days of Harold Ford Sr., and he didn't just have lectures and programs. He was out in the street with buses and had volunteers like myself on the bus and shaking people out of their homes, getting them on the bus, taking them to the polls.
Yeah, he was a master at it.
He was a master at it.
No question.
And I think we need a little some of that, and I don't know how you get another airport.
Well, I don't, every time you see the state-by-state breakdown of voter turnout after a presidential election, Tennessee is always near the bottom, if not the bottom. And also we're seeing a genuine decline over the period of time as well. And I wonder if it doesn't have something to do with all the gerrymandering and how there's just not that much interest in races because there's no competition. Let's show you the pictures of our wonderful congressman representing the Mid-South. Steve Cohen from Memphis, David Kossoff for the suburbs in West Tennessee, Rick Crawford, a man you've probably never seen on our air because I've never interviewed a man. I've been working here 25 years. But he represents Eastern Arkansas. And Trent Kelly, I've met once. He represents North Mississippi. So I guess what I'm getting at here is they're all safe. They hardly even have primary competition, let alone in the general election. And, I think that also generates voter interest. What's your thoughts on
I think,
that?
especially with local elections, there's often very low turnout because there aren't contested races. But I think with regard to Tennessee as a whole and how Tennessee falls in the nation, you have to remember there's also structural barriers to voting. We have very strict disenfranchisement laws for people with felony records.
We're the worst in the, proportionally the worst in the country.
And it got more difficult recently to restore your voting rights if you have a felony record. And then we also require first-time voters who have registered online or by mail to vote in person. So if you're a college kid out of state, you have to take time off class and get back here and vote in person if it's your first time voting. So there's quite a few different things that could be changed that could possibly increase voter turnout.
I did not know that about the first time voting. Go ahead.
I did see something this weekend that was encouraging, though. The D9 organizations, I know Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, knocked on doors in Orange Mound. And they didn't push a candidate, but pushed the reasons why you should vote and what's at stake in using your power.
Yeah.
And I thought that was good. I thought that was good.
Go ahead.
Well, I give Trey Hargett credit for pushing voting. He's been here in Shelby County.
Tennessee Secretary of State.
Tennessee Secretary of State. He was here at least twice on the first day of early voting, so he's really pushing it. But what he needs to do, he needs to talk to his Republicans in the state legislature, because they are the ones that do all of the things that Catherine was talking about to suppress the vote, to make it difficult to vote, to tell college students if you got a gun permit, you can use that to vote, but you can't use your college ID. I mean, it's all of those things that make it much more difficult to vote.
I agree. And like Harold Ford Sr. never had tough competition. He really did.
Right.
He had some
But he
competitors.
got a lot of other people elected.
Yeah, but he
who did
used
have competition.
his influence
Yeah.
to drive vote, and we need that today.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, all right, good point. We'll finish our election conversation for now. I'm sure we'll look it over after we have all the results come in next week.